happy part of the program where you get to hear from my outstanding senior colleagues in the delegation, Jim Langevin and Jack Reed. And after they've made their remarks, we may stick around for a question or two while Secretary Kerry works his way through the traffic towards us. I am told that he is 15 minutes out, but I have learned after 10 years in the Senate not to believe anything senators say about time. So that's how it's going to play out, and when Secretary Kerry arrives, we'll turn over to him. But first, let me invite to the podium our outstanding member of Congress wearing his wind turbine tie, who was extremely helpful in making sure that we were able to move through the Department of Interior quickly and get Deepwater Wind up with much of its work based in his district. Jim Langevin.
Sheldon, thank you very much for the introduction and the opportunity to be here today. And good afternoon. What a great crowd. This is it's to be one of the biggest yet. I like to think the crowd is here for me, but I know that it's for Sheldon and certainly for Senator Kerry, and we're going to hear from Senator Reed in just a minute. But as you know, you can't be from Rhode Island. You certainly can't be, I think, a member of Congress or the Senate from Rhode Island and not be very passionate about environmental protection. And we live in such a beautiful state with so many amazing natural resources and treasures, and you just kind of grow up with this deep appreciation of the environment and the need to protect it. And I know the rest of the world is certainly in many ways is catching up to us. And you see all the different technologies that are cropping up here and there, and whether it's the wind turbines or solar panels or the hybrid cars or electric cars. I just want to point out, by the way, that I know that with the rise of Tesla and the major car companies, really catching on. Finally, they're leading the way now in developing alternative fuel vehicles. I was using an alternative fuel vehicle to get around long before all of that was popular. So, just to put my credentials out there for. But I'm really, I'm always impressed with this conference, and I want to commend Sheldon for once again gathering us all together for this Energy and Environmental Leaders Conference. I look out in the audience, and you truly are amazing movers and shakers in the environmental movement, and the list is long, but I see the thought leaders, the dedicated scholars, the activists, and other officials that the Senator Whitehouse convenes, and I see Janet Coit in the audience, and so many others that I've been impressed with and have been heroes or just mentors and leaders in my own sphere, and I'm grateful for that kind of leadership in addressing these pressing environmental issues of the day. Of course, last year and the years before when we were doing this conference, things are a little different this year, as we can all sadly appreciate. Science right now itself is being questioned by this administration, particularly climate science, and they have the top cover because the president himself does not believe in climate change. You've seen through punitive personnel moves and simple defunding, and of course what the administration particularly is doing and undermining and seems to be dismantling the EPA. The administration is going way out of its way to blunt the tools of environmental protection and scientific research and applied analysis in public policy. The good news is that there are certainly allies in Washington, and I'm so proud to be working with people like with Senator Whitehouse and Senator Reed and my colleague in the House, David Cicilline, on these issues, and to speak up when the voices of science are being ignored or they're being suppressed. And of course, we are very fortunate to have people like Senator Kerry, who I know is on his way, voices of clarity who have, by their own example, shown that international collaboration can work to address global externalities and the generational threat that we face to climate change. And more than anything, I don't want you to lose hope. I don't want you to lose hope because Even though the President said, for example, we're going to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, that state governors of both parties, quite frankly, have stepped up and said, we are still going to live up to the principles of the Paris Climate Accords. And it was a historic agreement, and we are not going to let what the rest of the world sees as self-evident. We're not going to let this administration derail our commitment to those agreements. And over the years and other things, we've seen green energy, the green energy boom really take off across the country, including at Block Island, the wind farm right here in Rhode Island, and pioneering American offshore wind technology. And it's exciting to see Rhode Island leading the country in developing this technology. Green energy is clearly also it's a growth industry. It comes down to the jobs, too, that are going to be created as a result. And right now, just by way of example, the fastest growing occupation in the United States is wind farm turbine technician, if you can believe that, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is a jobs issue. It's good for our economy, and it's good for the environment. So this is all good news, even if some federal actions right now in leadership, unfortunately, are getting in the way of progress. We're going to continue the forward momentum. Failure is not an option, and we're going to continue to work together on this. I know that we can build on these types of success stories, and with our partners in the private sector, in state and local governments, and among thought leaders like yourselves, I know that we can change the public dialogue in this issue and get further buy-in and momentum. And we've all heard the phrase, of course, think globally and act locally, and that certainly, without question, remains true today. And so let me just say this. In closing, I want to say that I implore you to keep researching. I implore you to keep advocating, keeping a voice for your mission. And I know that we're going to continue to amplify your voice in Washington. Just in last point I'll make that I've also seen firsthand, by the way, with firsthand experience with the power of grassroots advocacy can have. And just recently, language that I was able to include in the National Defense Authorization Act, for the first time, made a statement, at least from the House anyway, officially, that in recent years anyway, that I included in the National Defense Authorization Act, had language that stated unequivocally that climate change is a national security issue. It is threatening the national security of the United States. That language was preserved in the House-passed bill that came out of the House recently. So not only does it make that statement, but it requires the Secretary of Defense and each of the military services to do an assessment of the top 10 military bases that are most affected by climate change, the costs associated with those effects, and what we're doing to mitigate the effects of climate change. It also requires the combatant commanders to do a 20-year assessment of how climate change is affecting their strategic battle plans going forward. So that language survived in the House, in the committee, and though there was an attempt to repeal that language on the House floor, there was a bipartisan effort that beat that effort back, and we needed 23 Republicans to join with us to protect that language, and we got 46 Republicans to join with us. So there are some. Climate change is and should be a bipartisan issue. We just have to bring the rest of them along the way. So in closing, it's my hope, again, that language will be preserved in the final version. We're in conference right now with the Senate, and I've already spoken with Senator Rhode on this topic, and he knows and clearly has a passion for this as well. I know we're going to be working together as the bill goes through Congress. We couldn't ask for a better person, by the way, in a better position as Senator Jack Reed, as the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, to work on that and many other issues important to our state and our country and the world. So with that, let me just say our country only succeeds, though, because people like you who are working to address the great challenges of our generation. And I just want to thank you again for your leadership, for your commitment and participation at today's forum. Together, I know that we can overcome any setback and achieve a clean and sustainable future for our children and for our grandchildren. Thank you all very much. Sheldon, what a
I just
personal
want to say
privilege if I
there was
could.
indeed a very bright moment when the bad guys tried to strip the Langevin climate change amendment out of the defense bill and walked into a united wall of Democratic opposition supported by the biggest Republican vote on the House floor on a climate measure that I think we may have ever seen, that certainly we've seen since it is united. So well done, Jim. And on the other side, we have Senator Reid, who has put the similar language into the Defense Authorization Senate bill. So big Rhode Island footprint on that. Bravo.
Thank you. Sheldon, can I just one more thing? Sheldon, thanks for the kind words. And just before I exit the stage, you know, there are two major dates that everybody should be aware of in the environmental community. The first, obviously, is Earth Day, which is also my birthday, by the way. And the second is Sheldon Whitehouse's birthday, which is today. And I just wanted to say official congressional citation saying happy birthday to Sheldon. And so, take care.